Hello and welcome to the ReConnect Podcast, a weekly show sponsored by the Anasazi Foundation and powered by Sturry Studios. I'm Ganel-Lyn, your host. I'm so grateful you've joined us, where we have conversations to help you strengthen your most important relationships and reconnect with those that matter most. Hi, and welcome to the ReConnect Podcast. I'm Ganel-Lyn, your host, and here we are at the Sturry Studios again. We're so grateful for the Anasazi Foundation for bringing this podcast to you each week, and I am thrilled about our guest today. My dear friend, new dear friend. I love new dear friends.
Instant dear
yes,
friend.
the minute we had lots of reasons why we were going to connect, and then God just brought it together a few weeks ago, and we were in the same event at the same time, and I did the crazy thing and headed right over. Our tables were close enough. I wasn't back in the back 40. I headed over to Jennie's table, and this is Jennie Taylor, and for those of you that know her, you're already excited about this conversation. I know you are. I can feel it. But we had a prayer like we always do right before we start to film, and I think both of us immediately could feel the power of the conversation that's going to come. And for those that are familiar and follow and subscribe to the ReConnect podcast, I do not script my guests. I'm very much about having an authentic conversation, and we've already decided we could be on part 4 because there might be a lot coming out today. So just for a little background, if you're not familiar with the Taylor family and you're not from Utah or you've been living under a rock the last few months, Jennie is a Gold Star widow. And for those that do not know what that means, her husband Brent, Major Brent Taylor, who was the previous mayor of Ogden.
Of North Ogden, yeah.
Of North Ogden, which are two different...
It's a Utah thing. There's Salt Lake, there's North Salt Lake, there's Ogden, there's North Ogden. We even have South Ogden.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't know, they ran out of ideas.
Yes.
It's a separate city. And we're proud of it.
And North Ogden is not colder than South Ogden. The people in the Dakotas know what I mean by that, because they've often petitioned to get the South and the North off. Yeah, because there's more like tourist money going to the South Dakotas than the North Dakotas.
We just unite in one purpose.
Yeah. So he was mayor
He was mayor of North Ogden.
And then it was his turn to...
So, the funny thing is, it was his 4th deployment, but he hadn't been deployed for about 6 years before that, 6 or 7.
What branch of the military?
Army National Guard, Utah Army National Guard. We had done 3 deployments. He came home, he got into politics, and we kind of felt like our...
Public service?
Yeah, was taking a different direction. Still devotion to God, still devotion to family, still devotion to country, still both patriotic and loving this great land. But it felt like it was going a different direction. We had our 7th baby.
7. Under 13 years.
Yeah,
right?
It's crazy.
7 children.
7 children. He was mayor.
And for the military wives and families out there, my sister's a military wife.
There are lots of them.
It's a unique... bravery, I would say.
It's a family affair. It always has been for us. My husband enlisted in the Army right while we were dating, right before, actually 3 days after we got engaged. And so it's always been us. It is a unique
and the country.
And the country. It's a unique kind of bravery and a commitment that there is no way he could have done what he needed to do as a soldier without our support as a family.
Right.
And there's no way that we could do what we do without his support. So very mutual, very shared. These goals and these ideals and things, and his job took him around the world, and our job left us at home.
And that's a unique, the transitions, I think, are the hardest parts of it, from what I've discussed with my sister and others that have done this. My dad was in the Army, and we went with him to Germany.
Right.
And that's a different experience as well.
And it has its own challenges and its own benefits. Yeah, we never went with Brent, with the exception of one 5-month training in Arizona when we had 1 baby. We did get to go with him to that short period. But every time he was on active duty orders, he went and we stayed. And he went and we stayed, and he went and we stayed.
So when Major Taylor was called up, it made big news because he was currently serving as the mayor. And, and I don't know if he could have gotten out of it, but it was made known that he was very willing, and there was interviews done. And I remember that time, not realizing we had common family friends. And
other
I remember watching from afar, just feeling really grateful that in all of the rhetoric right now, there's not always a lot of joyful conversation around our country.
Right.
And I think that's the simplest way to say it.
And, and that's one thing that was important to us. So we found out about the deployment the August before the January when he left, so a few months. So
you had from August to January to prepare?
Yeah, and he easily could have gotten out of it. He could have gotten out of all 4 deployments because they were all 4 voluntary. So that's like a side note. But so we knew it was August. We first heard about it. November, baby number 7 was born. January, 2 weeks before he left, was the first time we made it public that he was going. And that's part of why it caused such a ripple in the media, social media, especially in our community, because things change a lot in the military.
Yeah.
Sometimes there's a deployment. Wait, no, you're going to leave now. No, 6 months later.
Right.
It's not happening at all. We didn't feel like it was
Which is such an uncertainty that you're trying to create certainty for your children.
And you can't.
You're trying to have and that's on your shoulders. I think it really is on the spouse that stays behind.
To provide some level of
predictability.
But we didn't even tell our kids about it until over Christmas break. Not that we were trying to keep it a secret or not that we're hiding it, but we didn't want to worry the kids, worry the extended family, worry the entire city. Oh, wait, never mind, he's not leaving.
The entire city of North Ogden.
We didn't. We know the ups and downs of military life. 15 years has taught us there's hurry up and wait, there's come and go. Once we knew it was going to happen for sure, we had those couple of weeks. He had to announce it publicly because by public law, he had to be replaced as mayor. He can't hold that title from overseas. And so he made the announcement, and I just braced myself for the reaction because, and this is where it's kind of ironic, now the fact that we have 7 kids and he served 4 deployments is heroic and beautiful and God bless America.
But at the time,
everyone says, what are you doing? Why are you doing that? You're really going to have another baby? Wait, another baby? You? And so here I am, my insecurities.
Judgment.
I don't know. Maybe I shouldn't have another baby. But we felt our family wasn't complete. Every time a deployment came up, we felt that's what he needed to do.
So I wanted to ask you that. Hindsight is right. But looking back, did something feel different about this deployment?
And overwhelming. Like, what the heck am I going to do?
Because you had 7 children.
Yeah.
But there wasn't something even more internally deeper than that?
Like I thought he would die or something?
Yeah.
No, nothing. Totally shocked.
Okay.
So I back up in January. We make it public. The whole world, it feels like the whole world, is watching.
And has an opinion.
And
posts it on Facebook.
Is pretty public about that opinion. And, he must not love you. Why is he leaving you? Or why would he leave his family? Why would he leave his wife? What's wrong with your marriage?
Isn't that so funny?
But the funny thing is, I know.
I'm like, you have so much time. I can't even get the laundry done
That's
in
what
grocery
I say. Can I give you something to do so you don't have to worry about what I'm doing?
Yeah.
But one thing, we've got this beautiful family picture that was taken right before he left on purpose. We wanted that picture. We don't usually have our family picture taken with him in uniform. But we wanted, with that public announcement, and we thought it would be big news, like in the Ogden newspaper.
It was big news.
And we wanted that picture to go on his Facebook, on mine, in the little local newspaper, and saying, we are a family, and he's in uniform, and we surround him with support, with love, with unity. And you guys don't agree, I am sorry, but it's between us and God, so you're going to have to just keep your opinion, and it's none of my business what you think of what I'm doing.
Yeah.
But it was
because
so hard.
I think one of the things about your family that, like you said, now people are now calling heroic and celebratory, you do value faith, family, and country.
Absolutely.
You absolutely do not just talk about it,
No.
you live by it. And I think you're right, that picture, because we live in a world that decisions and opinions are made by a snapshot.
Sure.
What a powerful image, right?
And that's the image we wanted. Here's the family. So back to your question, did this one feel different? We made the announcement. I've got this brand new nursing baby. I've got what I feel like is the whole world watching me. What's Jennie going to do? How does Jennie feel about this? Does Jennie really support you? Yeah, I really do.
And I've done this before.
And okay, that's the other thing. We're going to do this. So I asked Brent shortly before he left. I don't have like a date or anything, but it would have been shortly before he left. I said, are you coming back? Are you coming back? And he said, absolutely, yes. I said, because I cannot do this without you. I can't.
Are you serious?
I can't raise. I asked him point blank. I said, I can't, because that's what I needed to know. I needed to know if you're coming back, then get the heck out of here. Go do what you need to do, and
let's get on with it. The to-do list.
Let me focus on what I need to do, because also right before he left, we had a plumbing issue that like gutted my whole house. So kids and I are living in a rental. No, we lived out of it. We're like, house was uninhabitable. So me, baby, 6 other kids, everyone's crying, Dad left. Oh, and we can't go home because there's not a toilet there. And where do you live? So, like on my son's 12th birthday, no, my son's 11th birthday when Brent left, Dad's gone. We're kind of homeless. Not really homeless. We had plenty of people welcoming us in. We stayed in our home the night of his birthday with a bucket in the bathroom. So anyway, just a lot of emotion.
Hey, listen, when I have to do that someday, I'm calling you. Jenny,
call me.
You've already done the bucket. I need tutoring.
But, you know, I felt like just the weight of the world on me, and you're overwhelmed. You just had a new baby. Like, I'm half crazy and exhausted and just...
And plumbing.
And
just
emotional.
Separate.
And then plumbing.
Just
Who wants to deal with plumbing?
And how long was this deployment supposed to be?
Supposed to be a year, at which point he was going to come back. He said, yes, I'm coming back. And I said, great, because if you... And I kind of said it... I mean, I look back now and think, man, was that prophetic? But I said to him, I can't raise these 7 kids alone. I can't take care of the house and the yard. And I can't explain to an entire city why you would leave on purpose if you don't come back. You can't give me that responsibility. What have I done for 8 months? Those exact same things. But he said, yes, I'm coming back. And I said, okay, that's enough. I trust you. Because he had this ability, like the magic Brent twinkle in the eye, used to drive me crazy. He was always right. Always. Annoyingly so.
So he would say it and you would believe.
I'd hem and haw over like the littlest decisions, and he would have just this calm demeanor, like a crystal ball of, thus has Brent spoken, so I can trust you. And so right when he died, and I'm in the shock, like literally the first day.
So before we jump ahead.
Yeah.
He was deployed how long before he passed?
About 10 months.
So you had almost
January 18th. We had been at church the Sunday before, and someone said, how is Brent? I said, oh, he's almost home. I'm so glad we've made it. I'm letting my guard down. We're almost done.
Which is an unwinding for military families. Sure. Then you're starting to transition
and you prep yourself for that because, and I had even told Brent, when you get home, let me come into your city staff meeting and let them know what it takes to adjust after a deployment.
Because my brother-in-law's been home quite a few months, and I just saw them last weekend in San Diego, and I said, how are things? They said, we're just starting to transition, and it's been a good 6 months.
They usually say it takes about as long as you've been gone to be back and really get back, and with kids and routines, and we would joke with Brent, he'd come back used to being the commander, and
of course,
the soldiers do what I say, and 7 kids, maybe not. Yeah. Maybe they don't listen to a word you say.
You choose your battles. You're like, socks, underwear, I don't know. Did they eat something green this week?
Today.
That's not a fruit snack.
Yeah. Right. Exactly.
So he made it to 10 months. You're at church. Yeah. You're feeling this sense of like, okay, I can let my shoulders relax a little bit.
Get this man home.
The baby's not a newborn anymore.
Right. We were back home by then. By the time he was to come home, we had moved back, and our home was beautifully remodeled. I mean, that's a story for another day. The symbolism of the house falling apart and having to be rebuilt and crafted. And I'm thinking, God is teaching me great lessons about this house of mine falling apart and me needing to open up to help and call on master construction workers.
And make all the decisions about what was going to be done to the house.
And trust those who were helping. And I thought, this is such a great analogy for my life. I need to, when my life falls apart, I need to trust God to help rebuild it. Wow. And I need to let people in who know what they're doing to work on the specific elements.
Nowhere thinking. Right around the corner.
I survived it. Look at this. I survived the flood. I survived the condo with all the kids. I'm gonna tell this story, and it's such a great lesson I've learned.
So how much of his passing do you want to share of that story?
As much as you want.
Okay.
I can tell you back to what we said about, he thought for sure he was coming back. I am convinced he is just as shocked as I was. Yeah. I don't think he had a premonition. Yeah. I know I didn't. And I grappled for a minute after his death with a pretty bad time to be wrong for the first time in your life, right? And I said it kind of ironically in my mind,
but probably that's joking, reassuring that he knew in his soul that he was coming back.
Sure. And
he wasn't abandoning you.
It let both of us be incredibly focused on the day-to-day, what we needed to do.
Which I think is crucial for surviving any trauma, which it is a trauma. When your spouse is deployed, it is a trauma.
Right.
And surviving anything, I call it the chopping wood, carrying water. You're just doing what you got to do to get through the day. You're not
bare minimum.
You're not like doing a vision board and dreaming and creating.
No.
You're
and short charts. What are those?
Yeah,
exactly.
Right. So then what happened?
So it let us both. I think it let him be a phenomenal soldier. He did not hide out and sit back and try to get out of extra duties because he was so worried he might die. And I wasn't an anxious mess at home thinking he might die. I had enough to worry about with the kids in the house and everything. Great peace. And then we found out he was dead, and I'm just thinking, no, he said he was coming back.
Yeah.
He's never been wrong about big things. He's never been wrong.
And for those that don't know, how did that happen?
Okay, so Saturday morning, 2 soldiers knocked on my door in full dress uniform, which I've been an Army wife 15 years. That means one thing.
And all the movies you see that.
And every movie you've ever seen, yeah.
Yeah.
So here's the added kicker. I wasn't home.
Oh, shoot.
My mom was there.
No.
My 7 kids were there.
No.
The protocol for the Army, any branch of military, they can only tell me.
So they have to come find you?
They can only tell me in person.
So did they find you?
Yeah.
Where were you?
So my mom called and said, hey, there's 2 officers on your door. And they can't tell you anything over the phone. We met, I was in Provo, celebrating 20 years with my college roommates, having ice cream. Like we spent the night in a condo and stayed up laughing and talking. And the last thing I said before I went to bed was, I'm so glad Brent's almost home because man, I can't do this without him. It's like he was my oxygen tank. And for 10 months,
you had held your breath.
We're doing it. And I told all my girlfriends, like, oh man, Brent's going to be home and solve everything and fix everything and like just the magic Mary Poppins.
Well, it's your other part of your heart and your brain.
It's the other part of my soul.
Yes.
Like what do you do as a marriage besides try to become one?
That's it. We try to become one. We try that. And everything in the world pulls us this way.
Yep.
And all the marriages that survive, you're constantly pushing against that.
You have to learn to turn toward each other
and
not on each other when
right?
things are hard. Absolutely.
Yes. It's something to celebrate that the world doesn't celebrate.
No.
It's not codependency, it's interdependence.
I love that. It's not codependency.
It's not. It's
I can say I was 100% dependent on my husband, and guess what? He's 100% dependent on me. And it was a beautiful thing. It wasn't in any way sexist or chauvinistic.
No.
It wasn't demeaning. And I would remind him all the time, you could not do any of what you do.
Yeah, because part of his brain is your brain
what I
too.
do.
Yes.
And what a blessing that he was our provider and our protector. I could be home with our 7 children. As crazy as that was, I didn't have to also hold 3 jobs.
Which
and
is
7 children.
Something we need to celebrate too. For the women that choose not to have an Etsy store and not to go cure cancer, I want to say praise God for them too.
Absolutely. And wow, are your hands
not to
ever
take
full.
away from the cancer researchers.
No.
It's just, I think we fought so hard to have options.
Yes.
That when women have the choice
that we forget the option might be I want to be home with my children.
Yes, which is the hardest.
Yeah, I might want to be there.
It doesn't give you raises, reviews, or breaks, by the way. No one comes in and says, oh my gosh, the laundry. You've rocked the laundry, Mom.
You
High five on the milk in the fridge that hasn't expired yet.
To make sure
Way to get us to the dentist. Yeah.
We're going to give you a bonus.
Did the soldiers come find you?
So they did. So what they did is they spoke with me on the phone, told me protocol requires we meet in person for them to relay the news, whatever the news is. And
did you know at this point?
Yeah, but you try not to believe.
Your brain
so
is
I'm thinking
like,
maybe
no
he's
way.
injured. Maybe he's been medically evacuated to Germany. And that has its own weight. Maybe he's completely disabled. Maybe he'll never be able to work again or walk again. Maybe he's in a vegetated state. I mean, everything runs through your mind.
Right.
Or maybe it's a mistake and they got the wrong Jennie Taylor.
Or maybe they're giving him a huge award and I'm flying to the White House.
Right. So I'm in Provo with my girlfriends. They're in North Ogden at my home. We agreed to meet in Draper, Utah, which is about 2/3 of the way. I was much closer. But the National Guard headquarters building. That's where
I know
we met.
exactly
That's
where
we
it
met.
Shoot.
Off the freeway, it's got the airplane out front.
Yeah, if anyone drives I-15 along the
kind of before
front.
IKEA from the north,
after
IKEA
right by the
IKEA
south. With the big.
But so we got there first, my roommate and I.
And she was with you.
She drove me because I had taken Front Runner down to Provo. Because really, it'd been such a crazy 10 months, and I...
What a gift from God that you had a girls' night.
Huge. Well, and that I wasn't at the door on a ragged Saturday morning
your kids.
With all the kids around when they then said that. Because what happened was the kids saw the soldiers come. They saw Grandma there. They saw Grandma call me. And then Grandpa came and took them to McDonald's.
Okay.
And Grandma quietly hurried and snuck out and raced down to Draper to be with me.
She did.
And she got there after I did. But so I got to Draper first. The chaplain came out and met me, Mrs. Taylor. But no one can say anything. No one can say anything. It's not allowed. So they walk me in, and there's a lot of doors. If you've ever been to that headquarters building, there's a door and then a door and a door and a door. And everyone's everyone's holding the door open for me. Very kind. Holding the door, but at attention, stiff like this. And there's not one person in the building who will look at me.
And you could tell.
Not one. Yeah. So we walk in. I sit in this conference room. Took me about 30 minutes. Takes them about an hour. So I get there about a half an hour before. Another young soldier and the chaplain offered to pray with me. We're members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and they offered a prayer and a blessing to me. And the young soldier was the voice of the blessing. He vocalized the prayer together. And he was calling upon God to bless me to be able to adjust to this significant change coming in my life. At which point the chaplain nudged him
and said, "Stop,"
and
with
said,
it.
"She doesn't know yet." I'm meanwhile sitting there, head bowed, eyes closed, thinking, she knows.
Yeah.
She knows. She knows. So the officers got there, the two of them in uniform, and I'm sitting here at the table, they're sitting over there. They sit down and they say, I don't remember exactly, but something about, on behalf of the Department of the Army, we regret to inform you that your husband, Major Brent Taylor, was killed in Afghanistan this morning on a ruck march. That's a hike, people. That's a hike. They go on a hike every Saturday morning. That's his way of building camaraderie with the Afghans and getting exercise and training. And they have their battle armor that weighs like 80 pounds, and they're running in the Afghan mountains and racing. And he sent pictures and videos of himself doing that, loving it, laughing, beautiful. And one of the Afghans
was an
insurgent, inside attack, and shot him. He was shot and killed in the head. Not to get too terribly detailed, and
this is what your scope of what you're hearing.
Well,
this is significant.
And part of me feels like the story I might be able to tell America
needs to
is a viewpoint I've been given of America that most people never see. And I'm glad.
Exactly.
But I've been to Dover Air Base and stood on a flight line and watched my husband's remains transfer from an aircraft to a hearse. Most of you have never seen that, and you won't know about that unless I tell you. And I don't tell you because I seek glory or sympathy or, oh, I'm so sorry.
Right.
I want you to know
what the cost.
What it takes.
There's a cost.
There is a cost. And fortunately, we in our generation have inherited a time of relative peace, prosperity. We don't have thousands of soldiers dying on the beaches of Normandy today.
Yeah.
That was 75 years ago. It's not today.
We don't have any memory except through a movie.
Nope.
And that is only a one-dimensional perspective of what, and at the time of this taping, it's a few days before 4th of July.
Yeah,
and so I get a little emotional in general, but I think we aren't talking to our children.
Right.
And we're setting them up for, I think, they have a weak spot, a blind spot that is not preparing them, because our children, our grandparents and parents had grandparents and parents. Like there were multiple generations, whether it was Korea, Vietnam, World War II, World War I. There were enough generations. There wasn't a gap.
No, there wasn't.
We've had a gap.
Right.
We only have children now of military servicemen and women.
A very small percentage, and we don't have a draft.
Yep.
We have a volunteer military force, which again is wonderful. I am so glad. The last thing I wish is that 50,000 men died this week.
But there was a pay.
But there was a connection
for that.
It was a connection.
Yes.
And I've thought a lot about that as we've celebrated Normandy, 75 years, World War II.
And we're losing that generation.
And what do we call them?
Yes.
The greatest generation. Why? Because every one of them pitched in. They either went to war, sent a loved one to war, lost a son or a sweetheart in war, rationed their sugar, couldn't wear nylons because the military needed
we don't even understand.
Everyone felt that.
The sacrifice.
Versus now, I have been very mindful of the fact that for my entire home city of North Ogden, Utah, about 20,000 people, Brent Taylor is the first personal person
that they've lost.
They have known that was killed in action. The first person maybe they went to lunch with. The first person that might have had a kid on our soccer team.
Yep.
Or the
Gone
first
to church
person
with,
showed up at church, ran into you at the grocery store, argued over politics.
Yep.
The first person that you could say, knew that guy, and now he's dead.
And within context, volunteered every time. Had
volunteered
so many reasons that he didn't have to be there and chose to be there. So as his remains are coming down at Dover, and you're probably replaying, and you're like, this is exactly what I've seen on movies. Like, oh my gosh, is his casket draped in a flag?
And it's not fully a casket at that point. It's a more simplified box, a slim box. What it is at the time of death, when it's determined they can't revive, resuscitate. I mean, they tried. Heaven bless the soldiers who were with him. They tried everything you can think of to stop the bleeding, to get the heart going, to help him breathe. I feel such love and gratitude for every effort made to sustain his life.
And was the shooter caught?
Yeah.
Okay.
And killed.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. So that's one thing I don't have to worry about, that he's out there somewhere. No, he was immediately turned upon by the others who were with them and said, no, you don't.
No.
And on a side note, I've had several Afghan soldiers, either through Facebook. One came to my home. He's currently living in California. He's a translator. He speaks very, very well English. Speaks English very well. And he came by. Several of them have reached out to me to say, Mrs. Taylor, please. No, this does not represent us. And I don't. Brent loves the Afghan
I was
people.
just going to say, Brent had already shown you what relationships he had built.
He had been there because he loved them. And when he first got there this time, early 2018, the last time he left Afghanistan was fall of 2012. So you're talking 6 years. And guess what? The first thing he told me, almost every higher officer with whom he had worked in 2012, almost everyone was dead by the time he got there in 2018.
In Afghanistan.
Dead. Because they're the men and the women that are fighting for freedom in Afghanistan. And then you've got the outside forces. You've got ISIS and the Taliban and the terrorists in general, who are determined to stop those who stand up for freedom. And guess what Brent did? Brent stood up not just for American freedom. He stood up for Afghan freedom. For freedom, the principle, the God-given principle of freedom.
And we share a similar faith, and we believe that freedom for everyone, not just those that worship like me or vote like me.
And don't we as Americans believe in that all men are created equal, with life, liberty, the pursuit of happiness. You can't pursue happiness in a dictatorship.
You
can't
just
pursue happiness without
and that's
the
another
rights
thing,
and the freedoms we have.
This podcast will air in the beginnings of the presidential election in America, right? And it's already starting to fester, right?
Sure.
And the dialogue can get very vitriol.
For sure.
I think it's important to note that we have the freedom to even talk about what we think about our leaders.
Brent would say that. He would.
We can criticize
say,
and we're not going to disappear.
How beautiful is it that you can absolutely think my idea is idiotic?
Stupid. Yeah.
You can think, why, Mayor Taylor, did you support that? Or why are you doing that?
Right.
Or you could say on your own Facebook page, I hate Mayor Brent Taylor. I disagree with every decision he's ever made. Okay.
And you won't disappear.
I remember Brent on several occasions in public settings calling democracy messy.
Yes.
He said it's messy. It's messy because we can disagree. We can give and take. We can argue and compromise. But it's a beautiful system. It's not a perfect system.
I think faith is messy.
System.
I think democracy
Life is messy.
I think love is messy.
It is.
And if we try to make the Hollywood version of anything, we're not really connecting with the ambiguity, the paradoxes. And that's kind of where I'd love to segue. From that moment to today, it has now been, at the time of early July, it's been 8 months. Okay. And you have been in a whirlwind of media attention and conversations, visit to the White House, honorary doctorate,
great opportunities,
honorary awards. Which
it's been unreal.
I think the first year of grieving, no matter where the loss is, the first year of grieving is unique, and because I think there's a lot of firsts, so it's like
everything's a first.
Everything's a first, like the first Easter, the first. I think I saw your post, the first Father's Day, right?
The first time I turned on the ceiling fan in my bedroom the other day. How funny I would notice that. Brent always wanted the fan on freezing at night, and I'd be so cold. Well, the other day it was hot enough in my bedroom, I turned on the ceiling fan for the first time since November, and that hit me like.
Yes.
First time. Silly little things. First time after Brent died.
That first few weeks after a death, for those that are familiar with my story after Meg's suicide, it's almost like a time warp. It's a very out of body experience, and I love hearing the details of all those steps of where you were sitting in the doors, and because
every detail.
I think it's our spirit and our brain trying to like wrap around something that is just like really mind-blowing and life-changing. But in that first few weeks, as you make it through the funeral, and the news is covering it, the national news is covering it, everyone is calling not only your husband a hero, but you and your children. Can you give us just a little insight on what that stage of the grieving felt like?
I think that's the stage we're still in. I think what maybe normally might have taken the first few weeks or couple of months has been extended by the public nature of things, by the patriotic nature of things. I feel we as a family have been given an opportunity and a responsibility to speak up. You know, it'd be really easy to just go home and be in bed right now, or, well, not really, because the kids would climb all over me, but it'd be easy to say, no thanks, I just can't talk about this because it's too fresh, it's too raw, it's too real. But I feel like I have a responsibility, you know, my commitment, Brent's commitment, our shared commitment to this country, to the principles of life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness, to freedom and everything. That commitment didn't die when Brent did. It didn't. The sense of a solemn duty and a sacred honor has only been compounded since he died. And I now feel, in a very inexplicable way, that I am us. Mm-hmm. I am him and me. I am his love of country and God. I am my love of country and God. And I am what my kids have left of both of us.
Right.
And I need to teach them, and I need to share them, and I need to share with anyone else who will listen how we feel about this, because this isn't the Brent Taylor story. This isn't the Brent and Jennie Taylor story. This is the American story. Mm-hmm. This is the story of freedom. Through generations of time, brave men and women have had to stand up
and do this
and lay down their lives to preserve freedom. So what stage of grief are we in? All of them, you know, but I feel like I am in a time warp, and I think sometimes it's overwhelming and I just want to wash my hands of it, and sometimes it feels like a massive blessing because it's like living in a dream. Mm-hmm. and things are fuzzy and it doesn't feel so real, and like you said, you're trying to make your brain make sense of it, but it doesn't make sense. And so we'll just talk about the principles of freedom, and we'll just talk about the love I share for my husband. And to be honest, a lot of times it feels like he's just still in Afghanistan. We've had Brent gone 4 times in our marriage, plus any other military work travel. He's been gone a lot.
Yeah.
On Father's Day, my 13-year-old said, it just kind of feels like Dad's gone again.
Yeah.
And now he's further away. You know, he's somewhere else.
And I think we talked about this in a conversation that in the work that I've done since in the last 5 years with suicide prevention and awareness, books and speaking and media. We both shared that, like, in those moments, all of a sudden you're like, do I really believe what I say I've believed all these years? Like, it's the rubber hits the road.
It is money to,
and it is such a gift, because then it becomes this why, this mission bigger than the grief.
Absolutely.
But I don't know how you feel, because I'm about 5 years later. I look back that some of all of that delayed it a little bit. I think I had to, I think I was trying to check off the list of grieving. And I remember 2.5 years in, something happened, and I was like, what? Really? I'm losing it right now?
Yeah.
And then I thought, okay, did I still try to hurry through that? And I think that's where I'd like to end a little bit this conversation on within connection in a family, and as a mother of 7, and as helping a country kind of learn what loss and sacrifice really looks like. Like the texture of it, the feel of it, the smell of it. You've done such a beautiful job of sharing those impressions and those experiences. But grief is messy, and I like to-do lists, and I like
I follow the book.
Yes,
and
I want to
just go as planned.
Yes, yeah.
This is step 1, 2, 3, 4, and done.
And I don't know how you are. Like, I've geared
way.
up for moments that I know are more sensitive because it's her birthday or it's or whatever.
You anticipate that bigger trigger.
It's the not expected moments of something happening, and for me, it was. I've shared this before. Bra shopping at Kohl's about a year ago. I was like, why am I snot crying at Kohl's right now? And it was because I just wanted to call my sister. So the ceiling fan is so beautiful because those are the things that there's no cameras for that.
Nope.
There's no President Trump handing a...
And there's no anticipation that pulling a ceiling fan should matter.
Right. And then giving ourselves permission to have the emotion. Yeah. What have you noticed in your children and in their process? Because I also think everyone grieves differently in a family.
For sure.
And it bumps up against each other. So all of a sudden I notice, like, many of my family members aren't public.
Right. They're much more reserved or
private.
private.
They're not public figures. They're not writing books. They're not speaking about it. And so in many ways I feel at times that I'm the captain of the grieving ship for the
Right.
whole, but I also know that maybe some of my publicity, my public comments triggers family members that are like,
Right.
can we just
Could
grieve?
that right? Could you just stop that
Yeah.
and not make it
Why
harder?
do you keep talking? Why are you on the
Right.
news again? Why
Right.
why are they interviewing you again? Why
Right.
are they doing that? What have you learned in the last 8 months?
So we definitely have that. I've learned that each child is different
Right.
and each day is different. And I've learned to I'm learning. I mean, still, this is so new. I'm learning to let them take the lead and
love
set the
that.
pace. A lot of events and ceremonies, I have never forced them to go. I ask them, especially the older ones, would you like to join me at this ceremony, at this memorial, at this something, or would you like to stay home or go with your friends? You know, after Brent's funeral, the funeral was in the
so
day,
much.
and then you go to the church and everybody eats after the cemetery. And then they went with a couple of aunts and
play
cousins
basketball.
to the trampoline park.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I let them, but just this couple of days ago, I had spoken and shared feelings. None of my children came with me, and that was okay. I had put together a slideshow with a lot of pictures. And when I got home, a few of the kids gathered around, we were eating snacks at the table, and I started showing them some of the pictures. I had told about some other soldiers. Not like Dad's not the only soldier. I make
love
sure they know that.
Yeah.
So I was telling about another soldier that we had known, and as I showed them the pictures, they started talking. They started
That was
talking.
their thing.
As I said something about telling the audience about the time those two soldiers showed up on my door and they had to call me. Well, guess what? My little boys who were sitting there said, "Oh, I remember when they knocked on the door." Because they were there.
Because that was their experience.
And then they got to tell me, and they got to take the lead. And so sometimes they want to talk, and sometimes they want to cry. I think most of the time, they just want to have a little bit of stability and a little bit of normalcy.
So that they have the space for the
Yep,
emotion.
and have space. And really, I really feel like strongly, not just my own idea, but I feel like this is really true what's going to happen. This first year is kind of a shared year. This is our public year. I think our first year of grieving will begin after
When
this.
you kind of
after
close
all of
in
the
a little
community
bit.
first.
Yes.
The first college graduations, the first Memorial Day celebration, the Fourth of July celebration. All of these first that wonderful people are helping us commemorate him as a public figure. That's the first year. Our first year will begin. I anticipate our first year
After
really
that.
begins after Veterans Day this fall, when we've hit a year plus a week. And all
That's
these organizations
true. That's right.
have
I
hit their
forgot to
own
notice
first
that
year.
it was around Veterans Day.
Election Day and Veterans Day right there.
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh. I think that's super helpful to reiterate. We had a guest on previously on the ReConnect podcast, Amanda Wilkinson. She talked about losing her little boy, and some neighbors took his clothes and made a quilt,
Oh,
and
how
they
sweet.
folded the quilt and they have it in their living room.
Oh.
And the agreement in the family is any of the kids go to grab the quilt, that's because they're having an emotion. And it's been a
Oh,
number
I
of
love that.
Isn't that great?
That's
I'm sharing
beautiful.
it.
I love
because
that. Thank
and
you.
it doesn't have to be a quilt, but it's
No.
just something that's kind of
And
this,
you don't have to open your mouth and say, "Mom,
Right.
right now this
I'm
hurts."
just feeling this.
I just need
and so
something.
everyone in the family, it's the trigger clue.
I love that.
Oh, so and so in the family went
Is
and grabbed the
reflecting,
quilt.
feeling that.
They're having a feeling, and we're going
Yeah.
to be sensitive to that because
Oh, wow.
I think that's the most important thing. Is
Isn't that
that
beautiful?
you're trying to do the normal stuff. You got to do
Right.
the groceries and
You
the
do.
dentist and the
And the
homework
laundry and
the
yeah.
laundry.
Yeah.
And then every child's having their own normal development, which
Sure, that brings enough. I mean, I got a 13-year-old girl and a 12-year-old boy. That right there is enough
right,
to-
12-year-old
it's a
boys are going to
roller
grieve
coaster.
completely
I know.
different than a 13-year-old girl. I
Absolutely.
spoke at an event with a whole bunch of teenagers up at Utah State, and afterwards this boy hung back and wanted to talk. And often when I share, my mom was divorced,
Sure.
my sister took her life. So I'm used to hearing the stories. Well, his mom had died of a brain cancer tumor in the last year. In the last 6 months, she couldn't speak. And he said, it's interesting, my oldest sibling has already moved on because they were close to moving on.
Oh, right. They were already almost to
Yeah.
adulthood. Sure.
The younger one is a girl. And all of her friends are very girl-oriented on the grieving. So they've done
Yeah.
all these very symbolic things.
Right.
They talk about feelings all the time. He's a teenage boy in the middle.
Yeah, what do
where-
you even do?
Yeah,
What
the
do you
therapist
even
is
do?
like, you need an outlet. So he's like, so I play a lot of basketball.
Yeah.
But no
But is
one's
that really
talking to
addressing
me
it?
about
Yeah.
the void of my dad's doing the best he can, but it's
But my
not
mom's
a
not
mom.
here.
Yeah.
And that's the truth.
Yeah.
I'll try to do the best I can, but he's not
And
here.
what your kids, he said to me, I said, tell me about your mom. What do you miss the most?
Yeah.
She said, she made everything fun. And I thought he was going to say like Disneyland.
Sure.
He said, when she'd ask me to clean my room. And I thought, For all the
she had a
moms
gift
listening,
to make that little thing
yeah,
fun.
he's like,
Wow.
she would just smile and make a joke, and then I'd go clean my room. And I thought, of all the things this child remembers, it is that the way his mother asked him to clean his room. What have your children expressed that they miss the most about Dad? Because what we know of Major Taylor is very public, and what a public servant he was.
And political and military.
Yes, but what
he's a big kid. My husband is a big kid at heart.
You said that before we started TV.
And that is what the kids miss most. They miss jumping on the tramp with him, chasing him around the yard. They have their own games. They have one called Daddy is a Rat, and I still to this day don't know really how to play, but somehow Daddy is a rat, and he's chasing the kids, and the trampoline is the jail, but you have to sneak up to free somebody out of jail. Just running around, laughing, playing. Sometimes on Sundays, he would do little interviews one-on-one with the kids and give them jelly beans. And yesterday we were at Costco, and in the aisle that has all the fruit snacks and the granola bars and everything, and my little 10-year-old came over with a big jar of jelly beans. And just said, hey, can we get, and so those little things, what they miss their dad.
They don't
I
care
don't know
about
that they
Major
ever
Taylor.
once in their life thought my dad's an
Is
American
the mayor.
hero. They couldn't care about that one bit. They just knew Dad was the one they worked in the farm with and complained about yard work, and Dad was the one they had a lot of fun with. They'd go, we have a fun place called Toads up in Ogden, and ride the go-karts, go mini golf, laser tag. He was as busy as he was, and as serious as he could be, and as majestic and just stately. He was just a big kid, and he loves those kids.
And you, as a mom and a wife, miss that too.
Oh, absolutely.
Because that was a real. I think as a wife and a mom, I appreciate where my husband fills in those gaps that aren't my strengths.
Yes, no, he is the fun parent for sure. Absolutely. But they just miss, and I think one more thing they miss that I'm trying to help. I'm thinking through how do we help them feel this even with his absence. Brent believes in people in a way that empowers them and gives them, even me, gives them courage, gives them confidence that you just know he believes in you. He thinks you can do this. He thinks you're good, you're great, you have potential. And that lifts all of us. And so I am, trying, how do I help instill that in the children, that he still believes in you? And I know he does because he believes in me. Going back to what I said where Brent said he was for sure coming back because I can't do this without you.
So he's here now.
He believes I can.
Yeah.
He always believed in me as a wife and mother far more than I believed in myself. And that conversation asking him is a gift from God because he told me in that moment what I needed to hear, not what I thought I wanted to hear. I wanted to hear the truth. Are you coming back? I needed to hear that he was coming back. So I didn't have to worry. I didn't have to wonder. And I know I used to always doubt myself so much, and people would say, you're having another baby. Okay, I shouldn't have another baby. I don't know. I've got these 7 kids, the weight of the world. What do I do? In the moment I found out Brent was dead, all of a sudden I believed him and how he believed in me. I can do this. Okay, I can do this. I can do this. Brent believes in me. Brent thinks I can do this. Brent thinks I'm this amazing mother. Brent thinks I'm capable. Brent believes in me, and so I can believe in me. And that is something that I pray every day to help instill in my own children. Dad believes in them. Mom believes in them. God believes in them. That means you can believe in yourself.
And I'm going to reflect back to you what I know your hub wants you to know, is that you are doing that. I have heard you speak. You are encouraging and inspiring people to feel confidence and hope and raise the bar in our dialogue as a country. You are doing that. And whether or not, I didn't know you before, so I don't know if this is a new gift, but recently we were both at the Best of State Gala, and you were surprised to be invited and given an award. And she stood up there and spoke, no offense to all the other people that did the prep on their speeches, Jennie kind of kicked it out of the park. And so you have that gift, you have that talent, you are carrying forward whatever he had. You are carrying that legacy forward, and I appreciate so much that you've given us a glimpse into some of, like you said, of what we don't see the cost and what toll it takes on a family. And grief in general, whether or not you have lost someone to suicide for my situation or because of military service, grief is messy and grief is hard. And grief is hard. I think I've shared with Jennie this, that my son, a year after Meg saw me laughing at one moment and said, Mom, I haven't seen you smile very much this year. And I kind of got it. He was a sassy teenager that just turned 18, so he thought he knew everything. And I turned to him and I said, yeah, but you didn't see me do drugs or stay in bed. And I wrote a book, and I showed up and showered and got your groceries, right? Like, sometimes kids aren't going to have the perspective. I know your children will look back on this time, and it won't be, I remember I have another sister that died when I was 10, and she was 2. And I remember when I hit the age that my mom was, when Bonnie died, I started crying because I was now a mom.
Yeah, you see it from such a different perspective.
I was like, how? I called her, oh my gosh, Mom, how did you do this? Like, I don't understand. And so I think for all the days your children don't reflect back to you a thanks, please know that I see you.
Thank you.
And I honor you, and that just showing up, and the laundry and the groceries and the trying, and then the public side of this that is very vulnerable. I mean, I do it and I choose to do it, but there are days that it takes a toll, and you don't get to control what people think of you, even though you know that, you still show up and do it. And it's hard and it's hurtful sometimes to read feedback and comments.
And never read the comments.
I never do either. Comments. I know people go, did you go on Amazon? And I said, no, if I have to believe the good, I'm going to have to believe the bad, and I don't want to do that. So thank you from a grateful nation, but as a mom and a wife, as a new friend, as a faith believer, this is what faith looks like. It's messy, right? It's not sitting in Sunday school reading the Bible and saying, I've got this principle memorized. Yes, right. Like, when you are living a scripture story out loud, which you are, that's when faith really turns neon. And it's messy.
And that's what I found, in those quiet moments, and those hard moments, and those heavy moments. I can say without a doubt, I do believe what I believe. Everything I've been taught, everything I've studied, everything I've learned, everything leading up to that November 3rd that I might have taught in a Sunday school class, or might have read in a scripture and said, this sounds so great, it looks good in a painting on my wall. I can say I believe it, I know it. And if there's any ability I have to speak or convey a message, it's not mine. It's not mine at all. It's God's word. It's an honor. It's something I can do that maybe can help someone else or empower someone else to say, it is messy, and it is up, and it is down, and it is in, and it is out, and you mess things up all the time, and then you just pick yourself back up and say, I've got to, I guess, try again tomorrow, because I messed up today, but how beautiful that we have tomorrow.
And giving our kids permission for whatever they're going to have to fight so that they can look back. My daughter will often say that, Mom, like, you're doing the best you can. And I think what a gift to our kids, because I think we get to a point where we think our parents have it all figured out. And then we hit real life and we're like, wait,
nobody had anything
no one gave me a handbook. How do I do this? So thank you, Jennie.
You just make it work one day at a time.
Thank you. Thank you for your honesty, your vulnerability, your willingness to help take all of America along this journey with you, and for showing up for your kids. I mean, I think all of us are trying to figure that out every day, whatever dynamics in our family we're all dealing with. Day. But just know you'll have the prayers of our family and this ReConnect podcast family. And thank you for inspiring and teaching and helping us know what connection looks like, and reconnecting when there's a huge loss that you didn't sign up for that. No. and you're doing it. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
I adore you. And I'm grateful.
I'm
grateful that podcasts get to go long, because sometimes TV is a 5-minute segment, and we don't get to go down deep into.
You just get the surface.
Yeah, you just get the surface, and I think it's such a loss, because most of us are all living in the shadows and the weeds, right?
Right, absolutely.
We're not living in the blacks and the whites. No. So thank you for joining us today at the ReConnect Podcast, and please share this podcast, especially for families that may be going through the similar process as the Taylors of grieving and of loss, and trying to navigate those interesting experiences and varying levels of grief that come up within a family. And for those that need to feel good about America, I think you can't hear the Taylor story and not feel some pride to be in a country where we have the we have the opportunity to fight and to sacrifice and to criticize. All the ands, right?
Yes.
So please hug those near you, because life can change in one day, and that I know for sure. And thank you for joining us, and we hope to have you here again at the ReConnect Podcast.
Thank you for listening to the ReConnect Podcast, presented by Anasazi Foundation. Are you worried about your teenager? Are they struggling with depression, low self-esteem, anger, drugs, or suicidal thoughts and feelings? If so, Anasazi Foundation can help. Anasazi is a wilderness therapy program for at-risk youth, and our mission is to help turn hearts homeward. To learn more about us, please visit anasazi.org. If you liked this show, please be sure to subscribe and leave us a review. Thank you again.